E.
Welcome back to Passing Time with Craig. As always, I'm your host, Craig, and today I'm joined by an artist, musician, author, very talented fella individual here in Calgary. That is John. Hello, John, for joining. Thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Excited to be on.
I'm excited to have you here. So we've got lots to talk about. Yeah, you do a lot of different things. You're artist, author. You're a very creative, talented person. But we're here specifically because to talk more so about your newest book, your memoir. So a few years ago, you came out with "We Make Clocks, Not Time," and it's your lived experience with psychosis, creativity, and the ideas that have helped you. And now you got your new memoir, Reconstruction Quest. And so I wanted to know, first of all, for those listening who may not be familiar, we're talking about neurodivergent and psychosis. How would you explain those to people who maybe not are as familiar with those terms?
Yeah, so neurodivergence, it holds space for the positive aspects of abnormal psyche. So if you get a diagnosis, you get like a map for your mind, but it's all the negative aspects. Whereas when we say neurodivergent, yeah, it holds space for there being positive aspects to having abnormal or basically neurology that's in the minority. That's what neurodivergence is.
And so, this is something that, I mean, mental health and is something that we've gotten better over the years of discussing. It used to be something we just didn't talk about. We didn't realize that everybody was affected in some sort of way, whatever it may be, whether it is depression, suicidal thoughts, ADHD, anxiety. Like, there's so many different things. So what was it for you that you decided to be open and put your experience to like paper?
Yeah, I guess having always been creative in some way, I'm used to a certain amount of vulnerability.
Yeah.
That comes from putting yourself out there. There's certainly a different flavor to it when it's the written word. I think it's particularly more, well, it's literal, right? So
Right.
it's yeah, but I decided that I wanted to be open about my journey with mental health, just because I think the stigma surrounding it can be such a detrimental factor in people getting help and progressing in their recovery.
Yeah, and you do talk about in Reconstruction Quest, there's a little section you have specifically talking about psychosis and the word psychosis and trying to destigmatize it because just what people think of it and also like really like actual definitions of the word, because you have a stat included in there that like statistically approximately 3% of people will have some sort of psychosis thing in their lifetime. 3% of billions of people in the world. Like, that's a lot of people.
Yeah, it certainly is. Yeah. I think one of the biggest confusions that happens with the word is like when we hear psychosis, we think psychopathy.
Yes.
And when we hear psychopathy, we hear like lack of empathy, more like extreme moral dysfunction, not but with psychosis there's a disconnect from reality, but it's not a moral, it's not, yeah, like there's obviously people who've gone psychotic who have done horrible things,
Right.
but like you said, there's, I mean, 3 in 100 is a quite a significant amount of people, and I think if we were all dangerous, there would be a lot more problems.
Yeah. Yes, that there would be. So we Make Clocks. You wrote We Make Clocks, which talks about your experiences and being a creative person and what's helped you. And now we've got Reconstruction Quest, which is really your memoir. So I wanted to know why now? Why do this book now? And really focus on you and your experience.
I think I've been working my way up to being comfortable sharing my story. Like the first book, it had lived experience, and it was, but it wasn't as story centric. Yeah, in a way, it was like a collection of essays. Um, but yeah, with Reconstruction Quest, I I wanted to kind of revisit my mental health journey and I guess kind of reconstruct it in my head and try to find some semblance of truth in what I've gone through. Um, yeah, it was a really rewarding process. I'm really glad I did it, but I think it's taken it is like sometimes it does feel strange being so open with
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I just yeah, I wake up and I think, oh man, like what am I doing? Because just because the state, like the conceptions people have when they hear the word psychosis is so so different. So I think when they hear that, the image that pops up in their head is much different than the experience that I've had with it. You know, so
Yeah,
um,
like I appreciate your honesty so much in reading this book, um, to just for you to be so open was just so refreshing and really just helped me to paint a different picture of psychosis. So for you, yeah, you're revisiting, you're reconstructing. Was there times that as you were going through these memories, because you dive down like right back to childhood, you have moments, you start off as a kid, was there times that it was really difficult for you? Was some more Were there moments of reconstructing this that was a lot more therapeutic than you thought it would be?
yeah, the most difficult parts I think were writing about the people who I've lost. So yeah, like just dealing with I try to talk a bit about grief and that sort of thing in the book. Um, but yeah, that was but you know, it's helped me find a different sort of peace with it, you know. So I'm grateful that I've gone through it, but it was definitely dealing with some of the loss aspects of my life were a bit tricky, but
Yeah, and I wanted to, there was something that I really related to as you're speaking about grief is you're talking about there's a few people. I don't want to spoil too much of the book, so I want people to read it, but there are moments of loss that happens in it. And you do mention having these scars from these loss, but like kind of owning it and needing them and not wanting to forget the loss that you've suffered from some of these people and the grief, because as someone who's dealt with grief a lot, I'm actually, it's just been a year since one of my friends passed away, and then I had another buddy just a couple weeks ago. So I go through these all the time with grief, and I'm so thankful to hear somebody else just like it's okay to have grief,
mm-hmm.
and you don't have to push it aside.
Yeah, and it's a process, right? I mean, as far as I understand. Um, yeah, sorry about your loss. Yeah, sorry.
That's the way the world goes sometimes, and that's the thing is that there's people who are always dealing with stuff that we don't always talk about. People listening to this podcast might know some things, might not know other things. So you never know what's going on with people, and so for you again to be so open and honest, I really appreciate that because the book was I absolutely loved the book. It was so fascinating, because it was learning your story, but also seeing what's going on in the world with mental health and what some people might be. uh, going through. What I appreciated about your book too is there's a lot of times where you mention, because your brain works differently than other people's brains. And
Mm.
there's a lot of talk in this book that, and it's something I've talked about with people too, that the human body, everybody's body is different and connected different. It's all this wiring. So you mentioned about struggles with cannabis and how it wasn't really great for you. And there's people who cannabis really helps them. And then there's other people who, let's say you have cancer. There's some people, chemo, they do it once, they're cured, they never get it again.
Mhm.
There's other that
Mhm.
have to take chemo over and over again and nothing happens. So your book was just a great reminder that everybody's wired differently and the human body, everybody's going through different experiences.
Absolutely. And I think it's one of it's like our diversity is like a very beautiful thing.
Yeah.
But it's also I think it's one of the biggest challenges we're posed with mental health is just how everyone's so different. Like there's no one size fits all treatment. So like things like medication, it's trial and error, right? You try this, doesn't work, okay. Well, your left toenails falling off. Well, we're not gonna use that one anymore. You need your toenails, so
Yeah. Well, yeah, and you talk about that in the book, because everybody's treatment's differently too, and you acknowledge that you weren't really suicidal because you didn't want to hurt your family and friends. Like that was, whereas there's some people who that doesn't really matter, but you have a great point in a section in the story where you are doing really well. There is a point where you do get um, checked into a mental hospital and you're getting help and you're doing really well. And then you decide to go to a new facility and you instantly get a different vibe. And the medication, they put you on Topamax.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And like,
They put everyone. I mean, that was the comical parts is they put everyone in the facility on the same medication.
yeah.
If that's not dystopian, I don't know.
Yeah, because again, I mean, I know this and I've got no medical education history. Nobody come for me. I'm not a medical professional whatsoever, but just common sense. The same medication doesn't necessarily work for every single person, as we discussed. Um, you know,
Yeah.
so what was that like for you, and to make that decision to like realizing that you moved to a new facility and it's not helping you, but also finding that struggle of trying to trust yourself and not just being like, oh no, I just want to get out and I want to go do whatever I want. Like, what was that
Mm.
struggle like for you?
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing requires quite a bit of perseverance. I mean, like going back to the medication thing, like you like try. It's no laughing matter to try 10 medications and still not have found the right one. It's a real slog.
Yeah.
And I think that that treatment facility I was in there was just something about it that was just toxic. And I needed to try. What I did is I trusted myself that I needed to get out of there. And so I left. But, um, yeah, spoiler alert, I'm not still there.
Yeah. 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 Spoiler alert, we're not calling from there.
Yeah, yeah.
But so, and you were doing what was right for you, and it sounds like it worked out well, but what do you think your family and friends were thinking at that moment? Because you were doing really well. You were at one facility, and things were going, and then we go to this new location. Um, as a friends and family, what do you think they were going through? Were they wanting to trust your instinct, but was there hesitation?
Well, they were coming from a completely different vantage point. Like they didn't see my reality. they got my interpretation of what I was going through, which was, and I was giving them quite a negative picture, but I think they wanted me to kind of stick with it, and um, I don't know. I would have I. It's hard to play like the past is all. What's the thing with 2020? You know, like
Yeah, hindsight's 2020.
that's the thing that
Yeah.
you won. Yeah. So I don't know.
It's and it's just very like it's interesting to me that we still have such a struggle of trying to like you know we just want to blanket this, put everybody on this one medication,
Mm,
and or this type of therapy works for this person or this like it's just everybody's different, everybody's mind's made up of different wires and chemicals, like, so do you find you have to explain that lots to people, like what neurodivergent is, being like psychosis, altered states? Do you find, or the friends and family you like, they kind of just get it?
yeah, I mean, it's different relationships with different people, but um, I think we're at a point where we know the definitions and we know, um, but I think a lot of it just comes down to the simple fact that like you've said a few times, it's like I experience reality different than you experience reality. We all experience reality different in different ways, and so I think what can happen with mental health is we say, oh, this is easy for me, so why isn't it easy for you? Or like I can do this easily, that therefore you should be able to do this easily. But since we're all wired so differently, it just doesn't make sense. But I think it can cause a lot of frustration, because there's that mentality of people who should just pull yourself up from your bootstraps and just don't do it, don't do it, don't do this, don't do that, don't do this, and you're fine.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
that yeah, yeah. I wish I thought of that earlier. Oh, man.
Oh, yeah, no, you're right. All I needed was to take a nap. Uh-huh, cool. No,
Yeah.
yeah, that's it's we still have such this like there's so much progress but in mental health, but I feel like we're still, and maybe that's just because everything else going on in the world where I think that we're progressing and then we move
Yeah,
5 steps back.
yeah.
One of the other things that you talked about in your book that I found very interesting, because I've seen it with people that I are friends with on Facebook or Instagram, and some of them I don't know really well, and others I've known. But you have a part where you talk about like when you were having some issues where you were posting on social media, and it was just like all kinds of stuff, right?
Oh man, it was that's. I'm still embarrassed about that. Like, I don't know. I just have to remind myself that I was sick, and it's not like it's not a reflection of my character.
Yeah. But it's social media is such an interesting thing now, and people are just posting everything. And well, you mentioned being like sick. I do want to. There's a great point in your book where you just came back from your trip to England. I won't go into details
Mhm.
why you went there. But you were embarrassed and you were talking to your doctor and saying all this stuff and feeling bad, and your doctor said you are sick, but you're here trying to get better. Like, what was that moment for you where someone took a moment to be like, no, no, you're not a villain. You made a mistake, but you are sick, but you're also trying to help yourself.
Yeah, I mean there were things going wrong, but there was a lot of strong things in my life, um, and I think um, yeah, sometimes we just get so fixated on the negative aspects of our persona that we forget about all the great great stuff that we were doing to help ourselves, or um, but it's frustrating because you don't um, want to push yourself to get better. So you don't want to just say like, oh, you want to push yourself to get better. You don't want to just be
Right.
placated, but you also want to accept yourself for who you are. Yeah.
Now, talk to me about something that you talk about in the book, and I've read about it online. People may not be aware of it, but talk to me about the Canadian mental health, the peer group. What was that like to be a part of that, and just let people know what that is exactly.
Yeah. So in 2018, I had trained as a peer support worker with the Canadian Mental Health Association, and peer support's essentially people getting together who have a shared lived experience, um, and yeah, it's not counseling per se, but there's elements of talking things out with people. Um, but for me, it was really formative to learn the principles of peer support. Um, just getting together with like-minded folks and sitting in a circle and discussing, um, yeah, things like free will and how that relates to that's one of my favorite, I guess, rabbit holes. Really,
Yeah.
free will. It's a total rabbit hole. But yeah, and then I started writing. We were doing these like daily reflections, and so I started writing some of my ideas, and I felt encouraged by that. Up until then, I had written like song lyrics, and yeah, written song lyrics, but nothing like a book or anything. And but doing peer support kind of gave me that confidence to write, which I'm very grateful for because I really love writing. Yeah.
So you've done a lot of art, and you do writing now. What do you find? Is there moments where you you need to do something and you're like, art is what I really need to will really help me right now, or just writing, whether it's you know, stories or collections of your past. Are there moments that something really helps you out, whether it be art or writing?
Yeah. I like to bounce around between things. I find it I like I try to do something creative every day, and if so, it's nice being able to just well, whether that's writing or whether that's painting or um, but I find, yeah, they're therapeutic in different ways. Like the painting has it's almost like a mystical thing to me. It's
Yeah.
like um, yeah, there's I mean it's talking about visual images, or like talking about like art is like classically clunky, you know.
Yeah.
So I haven't figured it out, but um, yeah, it's art is a wonderful thing. I know that for sure.
It's great. I mean, art, whether it is a play or a painting or books or music, like art just in general is such an important thing. You think about the beginning of COVID when everybody was stuck at home, uh, what we're returning to? We were turning to Netflix and Disney
Yeah,
Plus. Like we were distracting ourselves. Or you're listening to classical music. Like it just is so important to us as a society, and sometimes I think we forget that. Um, yes, there's definitely people making tons of money for not doing much, but they're still bringing us entertainment and joy, and helping us feel and see something that we don't always get to see.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
I'm a big advocate for all of that.
I love it. Love it.
So, um, I've asked this with different musicians, and you've been in bands, you play music. When you finally release a song out to the world, you perform it, it can be nerve-wracking, it can be exciting. When you finally complete your book and you release it out to the world, what were your feelings at that point?
I think with the new one, just because it's a lot like we've talked about, it's more personal. Um, yeah, like there are moments where I think to myself, what am I doing? Like, well, this is so private. This is typically very private stuff, but
Mhm.
um, I don't know. I made the decision to put my story out there. So when I finished, I mean, there's a really beautiful like um, sense of completion when you finish a book. It's like it's really nice.
Yes.
It's nice to think that I'll have this in my life. You know, like 30 years from now, I'll still have like the book that I wrote 30 years ago or whatever. You know,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, no, and you know, because as you get older, as we all know, as we get older, the memories get harder to remember.
yeah. Yeah, and I'll hopefully have a few more books in between there.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see though. I don't I've been kind of like trying to figure out what I want to write about next, and I'm not sure where I want to go next. I'm almost thinking doing some fiction, but um
I was gonna
yeah,
ask,
we'll
like,
see.
because your writing is very, it's nonfiction. It's you. It's. So, do you have those ideas of just other characters and stories that you're like, "Oh, maybe I could do that."
Yeah, there's aspects of my own story that I would like to put put in there. Um but also in a way that it's like so it's like semi-fictional, semi non-fictional.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, yeah,
We'll see what happens. Whatever comes, right?
yeah. I mean, that's the beauty of my situation. I follow what I the muse. Like, yeah, I follow the muse where the muse goes. Yeah,
That's a good way to do it. Um,
it sounds really pretentious, but
Nah, it's not that pretentious. I'm sure we could find it to be
I don't
more pretentious. Uh,
okay.
so I wanted to know though, I've talked about this on the podcast in previous episodes, but I didn't when I was growing up and my mom was sick with cancer, I didn't want to be the poster child of a kid who had cancer or a parent who had cancer. And then when my mom passed away, I also didn't want to be the poster child of a kid who had a deceased parent. Like I didn't want
Mm,
to do that. Now, as an adult, I do several things with the Hospice Calgary's Children's Grief Center, and I really try to help out and be an advocate for it. And now, as an adult, I'm okay with kind of being if I have to be a face to get the word out about kids dealing with grief and loss. I'm okay to do with that. Is that kind of how you feel putting yourself out there with your journey and psychosis and altered states? Is that are you kind of becoming more accepting of it and willing to, if it can help others?
yeah, absolutely. Well, I think there's just such an abysmal selection of positive examples of of people who experience psychosis or altered states. Like the only movie I can really think of that's like, I mean, and it's complicated. He's like John Nash in A Beautiful Mind.
Yep.
Familiar with that?
Yep.
I mean, it shows a complex character, which is good because a lot of times it gets like overly simplified. You're just like there's like one dimensional monster. Um, but so I think, yeah, I if I can kind of shift the dial towards the truth a bit more, I think that'd be great. Um, yeah, it's a real privilege to have the space to talk about these things too, you know, like I'm not worried about an employer finding out. Um, because so I really wonder though how the stigma is compared to how I think it is. Like,
Yeah.
do people really hear that word and go, oh, or I don't know. Like, what's your take on that? Like,
I think it's one of those things where, and I got your first book a couple years ago, so I've really have had this idea now about psychosis, but I think it's one of those things where it's not really it doesn't seem to be as much in the zeitgeist, or if it is, it's usually again maybe more of a negative connotation to it, or if they're
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
TV shows and movies. And that's kind of one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you and bring you on, because I don't think it's again, we're doing better with mental health and we're chatting more. There's still a lot that has to be done. Um,
Mm.
but it's more like panic attacks are being more talked about. But there's these
Yeah,
we talked about 3% of the population. Like,
yeah. No, it's significant, but it's a scary one. I mean, because it is a scary thing. Like, I don't mean to I don't mean to sugarcoat psychosis. Like, it is a it can be a scary thing, but
yeah.
um, it's also like I think yeah, in the book I talk about how openness, like to me at the core of me, there's like an openness, and that openness is hijacked by psychosis. So like an outlandish plot, like the CIA is after me. It only appears in my head because I'm open,
Yeah.
you know. But then that same openness leads to my ideas in the visual field, or like um, how I write. So um, it's a double-edged sword, Like there's a lot of yeah, like if we nurture that openness, it'll create good fruit.
Mhm.
But if we don't nurture that openness, I think that's when things like psychosis happen.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
I'm no, like I like to say, I'm an expert in my lived experience and nothing else. So
Yeah. Well, that's fair. Well, I do want to like quickly ask you, like, what do you want people to know about like the Canadian mental health options and accessibilities here? Let's be more specific, like here in Alberta. Do you think everyone has enough access? Is there a lot more that we could be done to help people?
yeah, I mean, if like we kind of touched on, like sometimes you reach out and it's just you're just beginning a process of getting help. Like it's not to be pessimistic, but it's not often you well I won't be pessimistic. But I hope people have had better experiences than I have. I guess I'll just say that. Yeah,
I mean,
but
I've had friends who've been like just trying to find the right professional help, like just even a therapist just to talk to, and they're like, I've tried, this person just doesn't seem to understand what I'm saying. Like,
there's Access Mental Health that folks can call, and they will direct people to resources. Um, there's like you mentioned CMHA. They have the Recovery College at the Welcome Center. I'm not sure if they're accepting drop-ins or if you have to make an appointment. Um, but the Recovery College is you can take classes over Zoom, or you can go to the actual facility. Um, and those are uh, great learning opportunities for sure. Like they have different courses, like one on anxiety that's called Confront the Discomfort. Um, there's one on cognitive behavioral therapy, which I named this one.
oh,
I will yeah rethink your thoughts.
I like it. I like it.
Thanks. Yeah, yeah. That's my claim to fame.
Well, you've got a bit more things going on right now.
I guess so. Yeah.
Um, so what would be like your quick elevator pitch to anybody who's listening to this who seems intrigued by the book, or if I was just to tell somebody like about this book, what is your quick elevator pitch about why they should read Reconstruction Quest?
Yeah, it's a story about a human being, and this human being happens to be neurodivergent, and by that, I mean I'm on the schizophrenia spectrum, and also on the bipolar. I have a condition called schizoaffective disorder, bipolar type. But to be honest, I'm not too hot on labels. I think the term neurodiverse functions quite well. But anyways, the book follows my journey, and I tried to be really honest with what it's like to experience altered states and psychosis and depression, how that relates to things like free will and how our identity is, like the way we talk about ourselves influences who we become. So if you're interested in mental health philosophy or just a story of a human, that you might enjoy Reconstruction Quest.
Yeah, I think it's great. I think people need to check it out, because it is a story that people may know, they may have seen, whether it's somebody they actually know or it's movies or TV shows or other books. But if you're here in like Calgary or Alberta, to hear a story of a actual person here in this city, it might help you out to realize like, oh no, this can happen. Because a lot of the times, let's face it, unfortunately, a lot of the movies and TV shows we get are based out of the States or from the UK, and it's great, it's gorgeous backdrop, but when we can put it in our own hometown, it might help people kind of clue in and go, oh no, this could happen. This is happening down my street.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So I do also want to talk about like the album cover, obviously, or the art, the book cover. What chose you to do this art on it?
So I had a piece of about it was 9 panels. There's nothing about it, and they were kind of gestural paintings of figures. And I really liked this one panel. I think like aesthetically it fits well with the design of the book. But there's that sort of reaching back that the figure's doing, like which I think is really intriguing.
Mm-hmm.
I just think it's an intriguing image.
And people can check out more of your art on your website as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which
johnfgerrard.com.
Perfect. That's easy enough. Easy enough for people to find. I'll put the link as well in my Instagram story and on the Spotify description there. Art. You got some music up there as well, and they can find out about your books. They're available now. So that's exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm excited.
People can go and get it now. As we start to wrap up, I do want to ask you, I always ask every guest this. I like to know, what is awesome? Tell me something that's awesome. It could be absolutely anything.
Oh, okay, yeah. The feeling of the '90s Star Trek.
The atmosphere of '90s Star Trek.
Oh yeah,
is truly awesome.
No one said that before, so good job on having. I love when people have an original answer.
Oh, okay, cool. I loved '90s Star Trek. I just it's like home. I don't know, something about it is just very it's like nostalgic, but yeah, something about the atmosphere is just like a warm blanket.
That's awesome. Any final words before we start to wrap up here?
No, great to chat. Thanks for the conversation.
Yeah, I really appreciate you taking the time, John, giving me a copy of the book as well. It was such a good and great read, and it's not too long. People, if you are one of those people that I'm like, I can't read a 400-page book. I get it. Nobody has time for that. Some people do. This is a perfect size read, and it's just, yeah, you did such a great job with it. So I really, really, truly appreciate you sharing your story with the world. I think it's such an important story, so I really appreciate it.
Thank you, man. That's really, really, really great to hear.
Well, check out Reconstruction Quest, a Neurodivergent Journey. It is available now. Get your books wherever you get your books. Support local if you can. Go through John.
Shelf Life. You can get them off the shelf at Shelf Life, and then also on Amazon.
Shelf Life is a fantastic bookstore. I absolutely love it there.
It's great. Yeah.
And they've got tons of like local authors in there. People need to go check it out if you haven't. They've got some really cool stuff and just all kinds of reads in there. So,
yeah, totally. Yeah.
Well, thank you, John, so much for passing the time with me today. I really appreciate it. It was a pleasure chatting with you.
Thank you, Craig. Take care.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you all of you for passing time with me. Make sure to follow me on social media at PTW Craig, Passing Time with Craig on Facebook and Instagram. We'll chat soon. Bye.